Well,
go ahead.
We have a new series coming up in a week, right?
Yeah. Starts on the 10th.
Yeah, the 10th, the 11th for high school. This series is called.
Mm-hmm.
It's similar to the series that's going to happen in the adult worship center, but we just wanted to give you guys a quick idea of what's coming, what's going to happen, what we're going to be talking about over the next 6 weeks.
I think it's 6 weeks. Yeah.
That we'll spend with this idea called. So AJ, what are we talking about?
Well, basically, we're talking about the five things that God has called each of us to be a part of.
Yeah.
And so you may have heard some of these before. It's kind of a big idea that we shape everything around at North Point and in student ministries. You probably heard them called the 5 purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And really they're the 5 things that God has called us to in our lives. They're non-negotiables. And it's not something that God has called one of us to some of them and another of us to others. We're all called to all 5 of these things. And so we're going to take 6 weeks to walk through each of those purposes, what those look like in our lives, how we live them out, and why they're so important. So the 5 purposes, Colin, are what?
We got worship, discipleship, fellowship. I'm glad I wrote myself a note. Ministry and evangelism.
Yeah.
And we talk about them in student ministry sometimes like the house rules.
Yep.
So we have these that will be given out. These are house rules bookmarks. You'll hear us talk about house rules, and they go with each of these 5 purposes. We talk about Jesus is our focus. No one sits alone. Everyone contributes. Bring others with us and look to learn. Again, these are the 5 things that we've been called to. 5 things that a lot of us spend a lot of time like figuring out, man, what am I called to? Where am I going? What am I supposed to do with my life? And we're going to talk about how these 5 things are the purpose for our life. These are the things that God has given us to do. And so it's going to be a great time, a great small group study time, talking in small groups about what we're supposed to do with these things and how we live them out every day. So don't miss it.
I think that's a great point, Colin, because so often we spend a lot of effort and energy and time like stressing over like what God has called us to specifically. And it's the beginning of the school year, so you may be having some stress about, like in a couple years, where am I going to go to college? What am I going to do for the rest of my life? What's my career going to be as a Christ follower? Is God calling me to a specific job or a specific place? And, those things aren't always necessarily clear to us, but what we do know is that these 5 purposes are clear, and when we live them out, we're called to all of these things, and then living those things out helps dictate then the more specific parts of our life. Is that a good way to put that? So when we're living these out, then we can go to this college or that college, and it's all right because we're still living out these 5 purposes for our lives. So we're excited about this series. It's going to be a great time, and we hope to see you guys there. So all right, have a great day.
See you later.